The LA Rams are sellers. A big ticket wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, could be had by a variety of wide receiver needy teams. In this live stream, I'm going to count down the top 10 teams, the top 10 landing spots for the Triple Crown winner, Super Bowl MVP, the legendary Cooper Kupp. Where will Cooper Kupp go, and which teams make the most sense for Cooper Kupp? We're going to scale up from teams that make a little bit of sense all the way until the team that makes the most sense. So if you're with me, join me in the chat. Let me know where you think Cooper Kupp should go, where you think Cooper Kupp fits best. And keep in mind, when I'm thinking about this list, I'm thinking about teams that will be buyers at the trade deadline. I'm thinking about teams that need wide receivers, most importantly. And then third, I'm thinking about any sort of relationship that ties Cooper Kupp to that football team and the chance for Kupp at 31 years old to go to a place with an established quarterback and a good offense and a good team that actually has a chance to go far in the playoffs. So let's get started, man. Let's begin with the number 10 team on my top 10 landing spots for Cooper Kupp, and that is going to be none other than the Dallas Cowboys. I include the Dallas Cowboys on this list as the least likely of the 10, but still on the list, because the Dallas Cowboys, it's been clearly evident they need someone else to catch the ball besides CeeDee Lamb. Their entire offense is oriented around number 88. Does he get the football? Can they find a way to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb? And if a defense is really focusing all their attention on CeeDee Lamb, doubling him, having, a man underneath with zone around him, they're doing everything to take CeeDee Lamb out of the game. And when Dak does not have CeeDee Lamb available, this offense struggles. They can't run the ball, and it just puts that much more importance on having elite weapons around Dak Prescott. Because if you're not able to run the ball and you're one-dimensional on offense for now, you have to throw the ball 40 times to win. And the only teams that are capable of doing that are ones with great quarterbacks that can complete a lot of passes and be precise with the football, but also with great weaponry around that quarterback. So Cooper Kupp would fit an offense that spread and shred. That's a lot of short passes that also can be a receiver that can relieve CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys are still in the playoff mix. They're still even in the NFC East mix. And I think Jerry Jones is a little angry. And he realizes that his season is on the line right now. So a move for Cooper Kupp would potentially spark the Cowboys to a resurgence this season, to getting his biggest investment, Dak Prescott, back on track, and to allow the Cowboys to continue to compete in 2024. The entire vibe of the Cowboys right now is completely off the rails. It's derailing. And if you bring in a big name like Cooper Kupp, that could potentially change and shift this energy of this football team and point them back in the right direction, which is exactly what Jerry Jones wants. So Cooper Kupp to the Cowboys is my number 10 location. At number 9, I've got an interesting one that doesn't necessarily need a wide receiver, but I feel like they are definitely a contender right now. That is the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings have a relationship with Cooper Kupp. Kevin O'Connell was a Ram guy. He was hired from the Los Angeles Rams to come over to the Vikings to be the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings just a couple years ago. So there's still a relationship there between O'Connell and Cooper Kupp, you would figure. On top of that, it's a similar offense. So Kupp would be able to seamlessly move from the Rams to the Vikings. When you think about the Vikings, Jefferson and Addison are there. Naylor is their number 3 receiver. What if they could just add Cooper Kupp in that primary 11 personnel offense where, just like the Rams, they play a lot of 3 receiver formations. So it's not like Kupp would go useless in this offense or Addison would go useless in this offense. If anything, you would have Aaron Jones at running back, TJ Hawkinson at tight end eventually. On the outside, Addison and Jefferson, and in the slot, Cooper Kupp. That would be pretty deadly, especially considering that if this is the rumor, and this is kind of why I wanted to put the Vikings on the list, Matthew Stafford is potentially going to get traded to the Vikings. Now, what if the Vikings, let's just play some fun hypotheticals here. What if the Vikings were able to get both Stafford and Kupp? Is that possible? I don't know. But if any team were to do it, you would think that the Vikings would be able to do it, right? Like the Vikings, because O'Connell is buddies with McVay, maybe the Rams would give him a deal, cut him a break, give Stafford and Kupp a good location to go to with a strong defense, Flores on the other side leading that defense, a running game with Aaron Jones, a strong offensive line. Sam Darnold would have all the pieces to be successful, and you'd be able to elevate a quarterback like Sam Darnold. And he's playing well right now. So, if there's two different ways you could go with this. Rather, you trade for Cooper Kupp and you elevate Sam Darnold, or you bring in Matthew Stafford to elevate everybody else. But the thing is here that this is my problem with the Stafford trade, right? So Stafford, if you trade for Stafford, if you're the Vikings, it kind of like ruins the vibe in a way. Like Stafford is amazing. I love Stafford. He's a great quarterback. He's still a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. Might not be playing like it statistically right now, but in my opinion, still one of the best quarterbacks, especially in drop back pass and football right now. But to me, it kind of ruins like what you've created with Sam Darnold, this energy, this culture with Sam Darnold as your quarterback. And if it doesn't go well, you might turn your fans against you. You might turn your players against you. If it doesn't go well, it's going to probably end pretty poorly. Now, if you keep Sam Darnold at quarterback, bring in Cooper Kupp, now you've given Sam Darnold all the pieces to succeed in this NFC playoff race. And we saw the Vikings, they were right there against the Lions. The Lions are considered the number 1 team in the NFC. If they bring in Cooper Kupp, that's another weapon to go against a pretty weak secondary in the Lions, to take on the Packers, to take on whoever else will be in their way, right? So I think that's the way to go. But if they go Stafford, they could also maybe get Stafford and Kupp and have that built-in connection within the offense with Justin Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones. That would be ludicrous considering the defense on the other side. So, yeah. I got the Vikings at number 9. I think that would be pretty crazy. I don't think it's likely, but I'm just throwing it out there. Okay. O'Connell, the Ram connection. At number 8, we're going to go with another Ram connection here. I think teams that have this connection already built in, it's more likely for them to at least make a call. It doesn't mean they're going to make the move, but make a call, right? So I'm talking about the Falcons. The Falcons have a built-in connection with Cooper Kupp. Zach Robinson is the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins is also a quarterback that has ran a O'Connell offense. He's now running a Robinson offense. So this offense is basically Los Angeles Ram inspired. So why it's easier to go to a location like this is because Kupp will basically know all the entire playbook. It's not going to take him very long to transfer his weight onto a new team. That being said, I do think the Falcons could use another weapon, right? They do have Bijan as a running back, Tyler Algier at running back. Kyle Pitts has played a little bit better lately at tight end. Darnell Mooney has been an awesome addition as a vertical playmaker, and he's shown a lot in this offense. And Drake London has really elevated his game as a wide receiver 1. But if the Falcons really want to take that next step and really be a true contender, I would say that Cooper Kupp to the Falcons would give them that edge. This is an offensive football team. This is a team that needs to score to win games. This is a team that, has a defense that's a little bit weak, but this is also a veteran team. So it makes sense, right? The Falcons have been aggressive this offseason. They obviously signed Kirk Cousins. They traded for Matt Judon. They signed Justin Simmons. They signed Darnell Mooney, right? All these moves. They have older players. David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett. They have a lot of older players that right now, they want to make a run right now, right? They're not that concerned about the future. They obviously made that Michael Penix selection for the future, but why not maximize the short window? Okay. So Kupp fits the offense, knows the offensive coordinator. They know Cooper Kupp. Kupp would probably have a great relationship with Kirk Cousins, considering the way that Cousins plays. He's a pocket passer, a lot like Stafford. He's very accurate, right? So having more weapons in the passing game is definitely the way to go, right? Cousins has always been more successful, as any pocket passer would be, with more man-to-man beaters, with more weapons on the outside. He was very good in Minnesota with all those receivers. In Atlanta, the very same could happen. So at number 8, I have the Falcons, guys. At number 7, I love all the people in the chat, by the way, throwing out teams. Shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for joining right now. We're going to get to some of your questions later on. I'll stop before number 5, and then we'll have a little brief period of answering some questions. And then at the end, I'll answer some questions for you guys. At number 7, the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are a team that obviously needs a wide receiver. So this is why they're a little bit higher on the list. The reason they're a little bit lower than the top 5 is because it's the Rams' greatest rival. It's the Rams' greatest rival. So it's unlikely, unless the 49ers were to dish out a ton of capital or be super aggressive. The only reason I give it a shot is because Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay have a strong mutual respect. And I don't necessarily feel like the rivalry between the coaches is that strong. They're actually very good friends. So it would make sense from that standpoint. It would not make sense in terms of 49ers versus Rams in the division. But Cooper Kupp probably will only be a rental. So if the Rams are considering this from a short-term perspective, Kupp going to the Niners helps the Niners win, helps Cooper Kupp win. If they want to do it for Cooper Kupp, it helps Cooper Kupp potentially have a chance in the NFC, because he's not going to Detroit. He's not going to Green Bay, right? Those teams are not going to make that trade. So, you look at the other NFC contenders and you're like, okay, who else can have a chance? If you want to give Kupp to a team that has a chance, we brought up Atlanta, Minnesota, San Francisco is in that tier, right? So that's why I look at it. Plus, Brandon Ayuk down for the year, torn ACL. They need a replacement for Brandon Ayuk. Kupp is not the same type of player, but what have the Niners struggled with? They've struggled with man-to-man coverage. They've struggled with separation. What does Cooper Kupp give you? Short lateral quickness, yak, which fits right into the offense, and a guy that's deadly on option routes. You've got Cooper Kupp and Christian McCaffrey eventually in the same offense, running option routes, getting open, creating separation for Brock Purdy. That would be absolutely deadly. Also considering Deebo Samuel with the ball in his hands, George Kittle, and all the other playmakers in the 49ers offense. So on one hand, it's the biggest rival, but on another hand, it's a close friend of Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and it is a team that would give Kupp a chance at 31 years old to get another Super Bowl ring or be in the conversation, okay? So at number 7, 49ers. At number 6, you guys brought it up in the chat, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, this is another one. The Bucs have another connection to the Los Angeles Rams and Cooper Kupp. Liam Cohen is the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, by the way, he's done a phenomenal job this year. Shout out to him. He's been one of the best offensive coordinators in football. And it's actually a really easy replacement for Chris Godwin, because Chris Godwin and Cooper Kupp actually play very similar football. They're both interior players. They're both very tough players. They're both catching traffic receivers. They're both short, intermediate threats. They both run a similar route tree. I would say that Kupp is a little bit more closer to the line of scrimmage underneath player, while Godwin is a little bit more vertical to his game, but it's about as close as you can get. I think Kupp is a better route runner. I think Godwin is a more physical presence, but this would immediately replace Chris Godwin in the slot. We have to see what's going on with Mike Evans. Obviously, he hurt his hamstring, but I don't think he's going to be out super long term. The Bucs were looking like an NFC contender before the injury. Now, they do need to figure out their defense because their defense is awful right now. I mean, they can't stop the pass. So their defense needs to figure it out. But Baker's been playing great football, the best football of his career. Their offensive line's been playing well. They've been running the ball better than they have since 2021. This is the best run game they've had. They have 3 different running backs that are doing work out there. Mike Evans is still playing at a high level. You want to capitalize on that. You still have Levante David on your team. You want to capitalize on that. You've got players playing at the peak of their powers like Antoine Winfield Jr. on your team. You want to try to go for it at least, and it shouldn't be backbreaking from a contract perspective. Again, it's a rental, so Kupp could come in there. And this is also a player that has torched the Bucs in the past. Like, this is a player that I'm sure Todd Bowles and that organization has a lot of admiration for. And from, a fan of the Patriots perspective, Belichick used to always acquire players specifically that used to torch him. That's how the Patriots landed Wes Welker, right? So looking at Jason Light, he does have a little bit of a lineage dating back to a little bit of a Bill Belichick connection there. I could see him taking a similar approach where he's like, oh, we lost Chris Godwin. We still want to compete this year. We still think we have a good team. Who's the best player we can get to replace Chris Godwin? We've seen Cooper Kupp torch us in the past. We have a close relationship with him on our staff. We have an offensive coordinator that knows how to use him already. Let's bring in Cooper Kupp to replace Chris Godwin. Unfortunately, I love Chris Godwin. One of my favorite players in the NFL, one of my favorite receivers in football. Sucks to see what happened to him. He's going to be out for the year, but Cooper Kupp could help replace him in Tampa Bay. All right, at number 5. Before we get to number 5, I'm just going to look at the chat real quick and see what people are saying. Bearded Drag says Kupp and Godwin both have one ankle too. A lot of similarities. Still Goat says the Rams need to not be haters and trade them in the division. Bang, bang, Niner gang. RN says not a bad team, an injured team. The Saints get healthy. They are dangerous. I kind of disagree. I think the Saints are toast, bro, especially with the coach they got. I think they're going to be moving on real quick. Robert says McLaurin and Cooper Kupp with Jaden Daniels. We might be getting to that very soon. The Animal says Atlanta is a no-brainer. We brought up Atlanta at number 8. The Steelers says Tyler. We may or may not be talking about the Steelers. We're getting closer and closer and closer to the number 1 team here. Flores says, whoever said bang bang Niner gang, you're pathetic. Tyler says Russ needs Kupp. What else we got? Love the comments, guys. Love the comments. Detroit says Lions. I didn't put the Lions on the list. Reason for that is, despite there being a little bit of a in terms of, the whole trade we saw with Stafford, I feel like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Kupp just overlap too much. I feel like you would have the same player on your team. So I don't really see how that would really work. And the Lions are humming on offense. I think they'll need to spend their resources on defense in the trade deadline. So I did not put the Lions on my list. At number 5, Cooper Kupp to the Commanders. The Commanders look like a legitimate team. They look like they can win their division. And they have enough cap space, certainly, to make this work. And the best way to continue this confidence, continue this momentum with your rookie quarterback is to bring in another wide receiver. You look at the Washington Commanders currently on the wide receiver depth chart front, and they have Terry McLaurin and a bunch of guys, right? Luke McCaffrey has made some plays, especially after the catch from the slot. We've seen even Zacchaeus make plays. We've seen a bunch of different playmakers, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, obviously Robinson out of the backfield, but they don't have an established number 2 receiver, specifically a middle of the field receiver. And Cooper Kupp would provide them an instant upgrade to their short and intermediate passing game. He's also an excellent yak threat on screens, bubble screens, things like that is heavily involved in this Commander offense. You could use him a lot in that regard as well. And he's a leader, right? So he could bring playoff presence. He could bring understanding experience, Super Bowl winning experience to this young offense that definitely needs it. Zach Ertz has that as well, but Kupp could add another layer to it. I think Cliff Kingsbury has been running one of the best offenses in football right now. He's been absolutely humming. Give him another weapon in the inside of the offense to complement Terry McLaurin, who's a perimeter threat, right? Terry McLaurin runs down the field. He's a downfield vertical threat, intermediate threat. He's a good outside with a guy that plays off of him in that way. So that's the way I see it. I do think the Commanders' defense is a little suspect and definitely needs to look at some upgrades. But why not make multiple moves if you're the Commanders? I mean, right now, you never thought you would be this good. You never thought you would be in this position. Why not make a couple moves to make yourselves a little bit more prepared for the playoffs and the NFC contenders that you'll have to face? Kupp gives you a definite upgrade to an offense that is already one of the best in football. Plus, they traded Jahan Dotson before the year, and it feels like they did that, I don't want to say without a plan to replace him. Jahan Dotson is not a great player, don't get me wrong, but his role was the slot, right? So, they don't really have that type of player. So I think Cooper Kupp would be a perfect fit with the Commanders. No Ram connection there, but definitely a guy that saw him up close and personal in his division and even in the playoffs at one point, Cliff Kingsbury. So Kupp to the Commanders. At number 4, we're going to stay in LA. The Los Angeles Chargers are my number 4 team. This one is pretty simple if you're Kupp. You get to stay in LA and you get to play with a great quarterback in Justin Herbert, who desperately needs a number 1 wide receiver. And if you watched the Chargers last night on Monday Night Football, you saw that. Like, Herbert had a bunch of great throws, beautiful passes down the field through the hands of his receivers constantly. I mean, these guys just don't make plays for him. So, yeah, Ladd McConkey is a nice young receiver that's performing well, but why not bring in Cooper Kupp for the now to help you kind of develop and provide some mentorship for Cooper Kupp, right? So, yeah, you bring a guy that can beat man coverage, that can separate, that can make plays in tough locations for Justin Herbert. He gets to stay at home. His family doesn't have to deal with the moving part. And you potentially have not only a guy that can help you right now, but the short, long term with Cooper Kupp and Justin Herbert. And this would be a replacement for Keenan Allen that you never really brought in. So a replacement for Keenan Allen, you get more out of Justin Herbert. I think the Chargers are looking at their team right now, and they're probably saying, hey, our run game's decent, but teams are overplaying our run game because we don't have a receiver that's a legitimate threat to get open. Our defense is actually a lot better than we probably thought it would be. Justin Herbert's still on our team. We look like a decent team. If we add a wide receiver, we might actually do some damage. We might win a playoff game or something. So the Chargers have been in every game they've played. They've let them slip, though, in the games that they've lost because they just don't have playmakers. They just don't have wide receivers. So it would address their biggest need at number 4. At number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers are at number 3. This one's interesting. The reason I have them this high is because it's a veteran defense led by TJ Watt at his absolute peak, Cam Hayward, who's near retirement, and Mike Tomlin has the pressure of not winning a playoff game since 2016. They have an older quarterback in Russell Wilson, and they've been looking for a receiver forever. They've been trying to find a receiver. They tried to trade for Brandon Ayuk, didn't come through, didn't fall through. They've been looking for a receiver, man. So the next one available is Cooper Kupp. Now, do I like the offense for Cooper Kupp? Not necessarily. Arthur Smith's offense is very run heavy, very tight end oriented, very running back oriented. It's not the best fit. I don't love it from a schematical perspective. I prefer the Bucs. I prefer the Niners. I prefer the Falcons. I prefer the Vikings. Pretty much every team I've listed so far, I would prefer from a Cooper Kupp statistical perspective. From a actual, we know that this team is aggressive wants a receiver perspective, that's why they're number 3. And I think the Steelers look at themselves as saying, if we had a receiver to complement George Pickens, our big play, downfield, jump ball specialist, if you can't double team George Pickens now because you have to focus attention to Cooper Kupp underneath, that would open up so much of our offense. That would open up so much of our team. We might have the best defense in football, or darn near one of them, right? So if we have a great defense on top of 2 receivers that are totally different on the opposite sides of the spectrum, but both awesome, that could make our offense a lot better. And the closest I could think for Cooper Kupp to a comp for Russell Wilson would be like Doug Baldwin, a Doug Baldwin type player for Russell Wilson. Now, Russ, he didn't look too bad on Sunday Night Football. He definitely showed that he could still make some plays. So I have the Steelers at number 3. At number 2, we've got the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens look like arguably the best team in football right now. And it's time for them to go all in. It's time for them to do what they can do to win a Super Bowl. I mean, last year they let that thing slip right through their fingers. And you could argue that that was because Lamar played poorly. You could argue because that was the run game. They didn't run the ball against the Chiefs when they should have. You could argue that that was because the Chiefs were on a mission and they were just the better team. You could make a lot of different arguments, right? But I think an argument that's overlooked is that the Chiefs overplayed the Ravens' run game, and they said, Lamar, throw the ball against us, prove that you can beat our corners down the field, and prove that you can make plays through the passing game. And if you look closely, that has been the game plan for every team that has beaten the Ravens in the playoffs. The Bills, the Titans. Every time the Ravens have lost in the playoffs, despite being favored in a lot of these spots, pretty much every single spot, they have lost because of their drop back passing game. They have lost because of an inability to throw the ball when they need to throw the ball. Not because of defense, not because of the run game, because they can't throw the ball when they need to throw the ball. What helps you throw the ball? How about a Super Bowl MVP that's clutch in the playoffs? How do you offset choking in the playoffs? You bring in a clutch performer that gets open and makes plays on third down, right? So that's how you do it. You bring in Cooper Kupp. Zay Flowers is looking real good as the wide receiver 1. He's shifty. He's quick. He did get a bit banged up against the Bucs. But overall, he's had a good season. He's a playmaker with the ball in his hands. He's got speed. He can get downfield. Rashad Bateman has quietly had a pretty good season so far. He's making plays down the field, especially when Lamar goes into ad-lib mode. And the tight ends, Andrews is seemingly getting better throughout the season. Isaiah Likely is a stud physically. Derrick Henry is arguably the MVP of the NFL right now. And if it's not, it's Lamar, right? But why not bring in a receiver that when teams want to test you and when teams want to overplay Derrick Henry and Lamar running the ball, you've got a guy that's proven to make plays on third down in big situations, in big games, and can complement the rest of your receiving core. Bateman and Flowers as downfield players primarily. Flowers is a little bit of a gadget player as well. Cooper Kupp is a traditional route-running wide receiver that can get open and make tough catches for Lamar Jackson. And that's the thing with Lamar, right? Lamar has always been at his best throwing the ball in the middle of the field. Mark Andrews has been his go-to guy throughout his career. Tight ends. Lamar loves tight ends. He loves throwing the ball in the middle of the field. Cooper Kupp's a middle of the field receiver. Now, do the Ravens need to figure out their secondary and their pass defense a little bit? Yes. But I think this helps them become borderline unstoppable on offense the way that they're playing, especially through the running game right now. So at number 2, I've got the Baltimore Ravens. And at number 1, I think it's obvious. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs' offense right now is downright dreadful. I mean, they are disgusting to watch. They move the ball 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Patrick Mahomes has more interceptions than touchdowns. Guys, he has one more touchdown than Drake May. And Drake May's a rookie who's played 2 games. Okay? Patrick Mahomes has played awful football for like 99% of the year. He's made like 2 plays in every game, and then somehow they win the game. How can we get Patrick Mahomes going? Let's give him a receiver. How about that? Right? Like, Rashee Rice is out, so we need a Rashee Rice replacement. Somebody that can run those underneath drags, create yards after catch. This offense is so good at manufacturing yak plays for their playmakers, whether it be Kelsey or anyone else. Kelsey, by the way, is getting really, really old, really just slow, lacking explosion. And the Chico says you don't look at efficiency. Bro, use your eyes. I mean, use your eyes. The Chiefs are not beating anyone with their offense. The only reason they are winning games is because their defense is unreal. Their defense is great. And their offense is all manufactured like offense from Andy Reid. Like, Andy Reid might be coach of the year right now for what he's doing with Mecole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster and Kareem Hunt, although Kareem Hunt still looks like he can play. Noah Gray. I mean, all of their plays are designery plays. Like, they're all Mahomes is I mean, how many games have we seen where Mahomes' passing graphic is like all at the line of scrimmage? This is all design, smoke and mirrors type of offense. We need a guy that can actually get open. We need a guy that can actually make plays. We need a receiver that can actually do something, okay? That's Cooper Kupp. So if we want a receiver that can actually make plays, and hopefully we get playoff Kelsey out there. You got playoff Kelsey, you got Cooper Kupp, maybe a little bit of Juju, a little bit of Worthy down the field. You turn those knobs. You got a running game with Pacheco and Hunt. You've got a really good offensive line in the interior. And all the other thing that helps is your tackles are the weakness of your offense. Mahomes now has a guy that can get open quickly. So if the tackles get beat, you got Kupp over the middle of the field quickly. Get the ball out. Keep your offense in rhythm. Keep your offense on time, right? So at number 1, I've got the Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's pretty obvious because they need a receiver more than most teams. They're the number 1 Super Bowl contender. They're looking to three-peat. They're looking to chase history. You got to be aggressive in these situations. You've got to identify the problem. And the problem for the Chiefs is not defense. It's not run game. It's the passing game. And it's unlocking Mahomes. And I think that's by bringing in Cooper Kupp. So at number 1, I got the Chiefs. Now, let's go over my list. At number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. At number 9, the Minnesota Vikings. At number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. At number 7, the San Francisco 49ers. At number 6, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At number 5, the Washington Commanders. At number 4, the Los Angeles Chargers. At number 3, the Pittsburgh Steelers. At number 2, the Baltimore Ravens. And at number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. Just a reminder, guys, if you haven't already, follow me on the BR app. I'm going to get to the comments here real quick. Follow me on the BR app. I'm on YouTube. The Bottom Line View is the channel. I cover the NFL every single day of the year. Every single day. I talk about all 32 NFL teams, which allows me to come on the Bleacher Report and talk about 10 locations for Cooper Kupp. So if you want some more NFL analysis, NFL picks, things like that every week, check out the Bottom Line View on YouTube. All right. King Dre says Dallas is crazy, though. Dallas is my number 10. The reason I put them there is because they need to save their season. They need to save their Dak investment, and their offense desperately needs a number 2 receiver. So I put Cooper Kupp for number 5. If the Chiefs trade for Kupp, I'm going to throw up, says Jay Robertson. I will join you in throwing up as well, but I have to be realistic with these locations. I don't want him to go to the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong, but hey, it would be a great fit. It makes a lot of sense, right? Rashee Rice works in that kind of underneath, spot, those option routes, those like find the soft spot in the zone, right? Those routes where he kind of, and then he adapts to what Mahomes does That's exactly what Cooper Kupp does. That's exactly what Cooper Kupp does at a high level. So it does make sense. B. Parker says Ravens, baby. Chris Collinsworth. Yeah, he'll have fun with that one. What about Sutton? I think Sutton could go to the 49ers. That was actually a trade that was in the works for the 49ers if they lost Brandon Ayuk. Well, they just lost Brandon Ayuk. So the Niners might be on the phone with the Broncos. I also think that Sutton to the Steelers would make a lot of sense because he was Russ's favorite target in Denver. So that would make a lot of sense to me if they made that call. I would actually probably, prefer the fit in Pittsburgh for him over 49ers, just because I think that Russ relationship, those type of receivers with Russ are very, very good. Those jump ball, big physical receivers. So I do like the fit there for him. We all know Dallas won't make a move at the deadline. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. Again, it's at number 10. Okay. I wanted to make a top 10. I wanted to give as many teams to you guys as possible, cover as many teams as possible, give the logic behind as many teams as possible. And I found 10 teams that made actual logical sense. Like teams that I feel like all these teams could make this move and it would make some degree of sense. Now, my Patriots, that doesn't make sense. We suck. Okay. Douglas says, is this for real? Douglas, what are you talking about, bro? It's McLovin says Tampa Bay. I would love him to go to the Bucs. I love the Bucs. I think the Bucs are an awesome team to cheer for. Baker's a lot of fun, but it sucks to see Godwin go down, one of my favorite receivers. Get Cooper Kupp in there, man. That would be cool. That would be a good fit too. He already knows the offense. The Pats suck, bro. At least we got a quarterback now. They suck though. Steelers. I had the Steelers at number 3. I do prefer a Sutton for them. Overall, I think it will cost too much to get Kupp, and I feel like the fit in the Arthur Smith offense is a little awkward, in my opinion, but they do desperately need a receiver. They've identified that they need a receiver. Everybody in the world knows that they want a receiver, so it does make sense from that regard. Lions would be sick. I don't see it. I brought them up because him and Amon-Ra play the same role. Jameson Williams did get suspended, so I guess that makes it a little bit more likely, but I actually like what I've seen from the chemistry of the offense. Even Tim Patrick has looked pretty good in the offense. Jameson has given them a really great downfield threat. They still got Sam Laporta there. They've got their running game to rely on. I think the Lions are going to spend on a defensive end. I think that's what they're going to do, is go out there and spend on defense, try to upgrade their defense for the playoffs. Kelly says Chiefs make a ton of sense. Wonder if the money is too much. I'm not exactly sure on the money, but I feel like the NFL can always figure it out. Teams always find a way to figure it out. Restructures are a thing. So Colts would be 11. I don't think the Colts are in this discussion. They have a quarterback that can't complete passes. I don't see why Cooper Kupp would want to go there, and the Colts are not a contender. So I don't see that as a location, personally. The Giants are not a contender. The Giants have Daniel Jones. Cooper Kupp would not go there. Remember, guys, Cooper Kupp has say in this because Cooper Kupp is very highly respected by the Rams. The Rams aren't just going to send him to the Giants. He'd rather stay in LA, I'm sure. The Cardinals, it's in the division, and they're not a contender, so it wouldn't make sense. Eagles. The Eagles, I don't see it because they already have a lot invested in wide receiver with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Saquon at running back. They've got enough weapons. It's just Jalen Hurts needs to play better. Period. The defense is playing better. It's more likely than the other teams that were recently brought up, but it's pretty unlikely. I don't see him as I just don't see it. To me, I don't see it. Sending him to Cleveland. No. Bears have Keenan Allen. Same type of player. And the Bears have a rookie quarterback. I don't know. They have DJ Moore. They have Keenan Allen. They have Rome Odunze. If you bring in Kupp, you're putting Odunze on the bench. So I don't know. Jason says Cowboys. JB says Steelers. Yeah, we brought up the Steelers multiple times now. Broncos, I don't see it. I think they're more likely to sell. Like I brought up, they could sell Sutton. It's probably more likely than a team like Cleveland or Chicago, but I don't think it's very likely. I don't think Cooper Kupp would say, hey, let me get traded to the team with Bo Nix. Just doesn't make sense. Green Bay, if I was Green Bay, I'd consider it. But Green Bay is not aggressive. They don't make trades. And they have a bunch of receivers. I think they'll probably go trade for a defensive player, a linebacker, a safety, a corner. I think they'll probably make a trade for a defensive player. San Francisco clearly needs wide receiver help. I have them at number 7. I think it's possible because McVay and Kyle respect each other. And I think that would be a pretty cool addition there to replace Ayuk. But I do think it would cost the Niners more than other teams because they're probably the Rams' biggest rival. I did not bring up the Bills, and that's really because they already traded for Amari Cooper. I think if the Bills make another trade, I think it will be for someone on defense, a safety, maybe like a D lineman to help them stop the run, something like that. I think their offense will be fine now with Amari Cooper. I think they're going to be very, very good. So Shakir's a good slot. I don't necessarily think they need another receiver. Who do I think is most likely? Well, I have the Chiefs at number 1, so I think the Chiefs make the most sense, but the Chiefs have to make this move. The Chiefs have been very reluctant to make this type of move, so I don't know if they will. It's very hard to say. I feel like I think most likely is he stays with the Rams. Maybe I'm crazy. Because maybe they want too much. Like if they're asking for a second, that might be just too much. But the Ravens could be the Ravens, the Commanders, the Bucs. Like I listed all the teams in order of what I thought was most likely pretty much. So I went Cowboys, Vikings, Falcons, Niners, Bucs, Commanders, Chargers, Steelers, Ravens, Chiefs. Any of these teams, it could happen, but it's tough to say. I have the Bucs at number 6. But I think you could argue that the Bucs could be anywhere from number 3 to number 6 or 7. Anywhere in that range. I was kind of just making split-second decisions. All right, guys. I think I'm going to end it there. Appreciate everybody tuning in, man. That was awesome. I loved all the comments. Thank you for all the support, the love. Don't forget to follow me on the BR app and on YouTube at TheBottomLineView. Cooper Kupp, where will he land? We will see. I'm excited. Hopefully I get to cover the news if it happens. We'll see you guys next time. It's Mitch. Appreciate you. Peace.